Hello and welcome to my brand equity review for my sports branding assessment. Today I'm going to be assessing the brand equity and marketing position of DAZN. So a little bit about DAZN to start off with. It was founded in 2015 by James Rushton. It was built to be a cheaper broadcasting alternative. So it's on a subscription service that's a fraction of the price of the broadcasting deals of Sky, BT, and ESPN. So they've mainly been dealing in more niche sports. In 2018, however, they signed the biggest deal in boxing history with Matchroom Boxing. It was over £100 million. They then had athlete endorsements with people like Anthony Joshua, Canelo Alvarez, and basically became the face logo of boxing in the UK and in America as well. Obviously, a huge market to get into, and was their first sort of major deal and what they've sort of been associated with as a brand. From there, in 2020, they gained deals with the NFL to show the NFL in and around Europe. Obviously, another huge deal as well. The NFL is one of the sort of biggest and highest growing sport industries in Europe, with NFL fixtures being played in London and in Germany now. So as they began to outsource towards Europe, they DAZN gained the rights to broadcast that and stream it, so it could cater to a whole new sector of fans in a growing industry. They also have a partnership with Red Bull TV, again showing the X Games, highlighting their sort of initiative to show niche and sort of growing sports rather than the sort of typical most popular sports. It shows their sort of trailblazing attitude, I guess, to show different sports and show themselves off as a sort of new and mold breaking brand. They partnered with Sky in Europe, not in the UK, to show the Champions League and the Premier League in and around Europe. Again, showing their initiative to sort of show sports in countries that they wouldn't otherwise be shown. So instead of competing with Sky to show the Premier League in the UK, they decided to sort of go out overseas and show it in Europe. So places like France, Switzerland, and Spain. Again, being able to broadcast it at a fraction of the cost for those in other countries that might otherwise not be able to watch it. So yeah, they basically gone the other way and tried to break the mold of what is already currently there. In terms of their brand positioning, so DAZN offer a subscription service for online streaming of sport. It sits at around £8 a month, so it's essentially, it's been, as it says, it's been dubbed the Netflix of the streaming world. They're going the opposite. They don't want to sort of mirror what is already there. They want, as a brand, they want to create a sort of different service and cater for those who maybe can't afford it or want a more convenient and accessible and cheaper sport consumption alternative. As it says as well, the way we as consumers and as the next generation are consuming content is in a lot more short snippets. So rather than watching a whole entire live event, watching highlights, watching clips, like watching it on demand, is what DAZN offer, and that is sort of with the rise of TikTok and Instagram and things like that. Consuming snippets of content is become more what the younger generation is, and that's what DAZN are deciding to cater for. They're also trying to create a global language of sport. That's sort of their modus operandi, and that's where sort of they're trying to create a platform where all sports, like from American football to boxing to sort of the X Games, skateboarding, snowboarding, football, UFC, all combat sports, can be connected on the same platform to create that immersive experience, so fans can interact and consume all levels of sports around the knowledge of the sporting world, really. Trying to create a platform where it caters for everyone, rather than just having football, just having cricket, just having rugby, just having basketball and American football in the US. Being able to have a platform where, regardless of what sport it is that people are interested in, they can consume content on it, on the DAZN app and the DAZN website. So in terms of their marketing map, you can see here that the marketing map I've created has the axes of price and convenience. That's because DAZN, as one of their selling points, is to create a convenient and accessible platform to consume sporting content. So I've shown here the major players sort of in the UK and in the US and around the world in terms of sport broadcasting and sports streaming. You can see Sky Sports, TNT and ESPN are in the high price category with high convenience, as they're the more traditional sporting sport broadcasting companies in this day and age, using television, using a blend of television and online to broadcast the sporting events, and having live events with then clips of that and reports on that, as opposed to sort of online streaming. So you can see DAZN, a lot lower price and operating entirely online, has that ability for people to watch snippets and watch on demand as and when they please, rather than having to tune in and watch the live event like any sport broadcaster would traditionally be. A market map's important because it means you can sort of get an idea of the actual landscape of the market, that the market itself, rather than, because on paper they all seem relatively similar as sports streaming websites. Understanding actually where in each segment they cater and what sort of different attributes and characteristics each business has. So you can see DAZN in the top left there is the only one of its kind, which means it's got essentially a unique selling point in that it can offer high levels of convenience and accessibility for a fraction of the price. So that's what gives it that added value and enables people to stream and go on that. And in terms of success, it clearly has been successful, with over 15 million subscribers, making it the highest grossing sports streaming service in the world in terms of online streams. This shows that it's breaking the mold essentially in terms of sport broadcasting and sports streaming itself. And I think as the way we consume changes, as I mentioned before, it'll only continue to grow and grow with the more sporting contracts that they get. So, what adds value to DAZN? Well, the process of adding value itself is basically creating a selling point that encourages consumers to pay an increased price for the product or service. So extra on top of what it actually costs DAZN to run the service and run the operation of the app and the website and the streaming service. So in terms of DAZN's added value, their accessibility to view content anywhere, on the go, on demand, at any time, with similar models as it says to Netflix and YouTube, that is, that's never before seen in the sporting world. Being able to log on an app and watch whatever it is that you may want to watch at any time, regardless of when the event happened, is never really before been seen in such a capacity as DAZN. So people can use the DAZN app in the same way they use Netflix and YouTube to flick through and watch videos and watch different sports that they might not have been able to watch before, might not have seen, might not have consumed content on, but are able to go through and actually watch, which is, I think, in terms of the sporting world and rounding people's knowledge, is massively important and is clearly hugely popular. In 8 years, managing to go to war with the massive established companies such as ESPN and Sky, being able to develop contracts such as that with Matchroom and with the NFL, shows that actually that the model does work and that the world in which we consume content is massively changing. Their variety of contracts and partnerships ensure that content can be streamed for many different sports, including overseas competitions. So where content on things otherwise wouldn't be available, such as the Premier League in Europe or the X Games in the UK, they've brought that to our attention. They've given us a platform to be able to consume those sports. And I think as the world becomes more and more interconnected and globalized, it enables us to consume different sports. In 20, 30 years ago, people might not have had any interest in the Super Bowl because it was American, and because maybe a bit further than 20, 30 years ago, maybe looking sort of towards the 80s, it would have been American, and that's it. And now you've got like cricket in America, you've got rugby in America, and that's just that due to being able to have eyes on content and things like that from overseas using app and streaming services such as DAZN. It rounds off people's knowledge, and clearly it's something that is only going to grow and grow with such apps and such streaming services, where actually every sport that you could ever imagine is available at such a small cost. Very similar to Netflix and very similar to YouTube. You can consume whatever it is that you might want, which is why I think DAZN has been so popular, because it just has broken the mold. Right, in terms of a map of consumer needs, so a map of consumer needs basically outlines the customer's desires in comparison to the business itself attributes, and compares it to the competitor's attributes as well. So it's all about lining up what the customer needs and actually the attributes itself of DAZN. So you can see here convenience of consumption, the desired sports content. So having the content on there that people actually want to watch, massively important. If people aren't interested in what you're streaming, then people aren't going to pay to subscribe. And actually an insightful analysis and an interesting watch of highlights and an analysis and previews and post-event sort of analysis is something people are interested in nowadays. Sky have got a massive following in with Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, Thierry Henry on BT Sport as well. Having these guys who are ex-professionals who are able to give us as consumers analysis of the highest quality is something that DAZN lacks a little bit. So I think that's somewhere that they could improve. But televising for a cheap price with massive convenience benefits and accessibility benefits is definitely something that lines up in terms of consumer needs. The only thing that I'd say with DAZN is that they haven't really got contracts with the mass sporting events that people might want to see, such as major footballing events, major team sports events, to be fair. They've gone down the route of more individual sports, such as extreme sports like cycling and stunt events like the X Games and boxing. So things that people are interested in, but not quite as much fandom as there is around football and things like that. The major team sporting events, which may be something that they could improve on in the future and increase their brand equity. So in terms of the CVVU model, this basically is a model that allows us to understand the brand image from the business's point of view and from the consumer's point of view as well, and the actual relationship that the customer has with the business itself. So starting from the top, in terms of customer resonance, the relationship that the customers have is active and diverse with DAZN. They actually have a platform and an app and a website, so they can be malleable in changing it based on certain events. So in terms of, they personalised it towards Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou when he was fighting in the UFC. And Canelo Alvarez as well. They can personalise it and create a platform that is actually personalised to what you're consuming and to what's going on in the world right at that very moment, so you can keep up to date with what content you might want to watch. Similar to Netflix in that it recommends to you content based on what you've watched before, which isn't something that Sky or TNT Sport do. So that's one of their more unique selling points as well. In terms of customer judgment, it's all been positive outcomes of all new features. They're able, as a brand, to gain high levels of reviews and high levels of resubscription, with subscriptions, as I said, rising to over 15 million, which is a 35% growth rate on 2022. So it shows that actually what they're doing, people are enjoying and people are resubscribing. They're not losing subscriber numbers, they're only gaining them. The resubscription rate is extremely high, showing that actually people are satisfied with what they're getting for their money. You know, at such a small cost, being able to consume such a level of content is ridiculous. In terms of customer feelings, the customers will feel involved and immersed with the product. The multi-sport platforms allow content of all types to be consumed by different sports fans in a environment where they might not have been able to watch it before. You know, things more niche sports such as the UFC and such as the X Games, being able to watch build up and analysis and press conferences and all the sort of training and things like that, like football is so vastly covered. It gives those who are fans of more niche sports the same sort of coverage and content to watch and consume. So it means that customers will feel sort of immersed in their own experience and almost personalized by the brand. The brand performance, so obviously as an online entity, being able to have an well set out and well functioning access point such as the app and website is a massive positive for DAZN. They have a 4.99 star review on the apps on the Apple App Store, which, you know, with such a high level of brand awareness and such a high level of exposure, having a high level of performance is really important. So people being able to access it and use the app freely whenever they want with no problem is massively important for them, and that's something that is definitely outlined as one of their strengths. The brand salience, so that's obviously the brand imagery is what DAZN wants to be viewed as. So it wants to be viewed as a sort of a niche, high-tech, slick brand with a vision to trailblaze and innovate and create this global world and platform of sport for everybody. They're trying to promote inclusivity and change the way that sport content is consumed with the almost the decline in television live event watching and the increase in highlight and snippet watching. Trying to promote that is definitely something that they're trying to do, and try and turn those such as Sky and TNT into sort of obsolete, archaic businesses that aren't as required anymore. So in terms of recommendation to increase brand equity, I've said that they operating in more mass markets. Obviously, as a relatively new business, going straight into mass markets isn't something they would have been able to do due to the mass, the huge levels of TV deals, the money flying around in this respect. But now with the brand strength and consistent sales that they've begun to develop, being able to sort of compete directly with Sky and with TNT at such a with such a different business plan at a fraction of the cost could be massively beneficial and could exponentially increase their revenue. We've already seen with the NFL, they've been able to compete with ESPN and Sky and gain deals to show the NFL in the UK and in Europe. So being able to do that with more highly valued team sports moving into those domestic leagues, such as the Premier League in the UK and the NBA in America, being able to show these would really increase their revenue. And I said as well, using the boxing brand partners to openly endorse their brand. You've seen with Nike and Adidas how successful Ronaldo and Messi and players like that have been in terms of endorsing those as clothing brands. But with television deals, you could have unlimited and unwavering access to Anthony Joshua's training schedule, how Canelo Alvarez prepares all of his fights all of, you know, the individual athletes themselves, how they prepare as as they prepare as athletes, because that's not something that's been done before. I think that would really increase their brand equity and create a level of content that's not been seen before in the boxing world, which is their flagship sort of product and idea. So I think there are definitely some options that could be looked at in terms of increasing revenue, increasing brand equity and market share. And these are my references. Thank you very much.